The corporate world as we know it is changing. You can be an expert or a manager, work in a big company or in a small one. These disruptive trends will affect us all. So let me break it down and explain what we're dealing with in 2025. Spoiler, it's not good. Number one, job search will get even harder because of AI. There is so much buzz around AI that it became almost impossible to navigate if you're like not a niche expert. So I've tried to dissect the pieces that are the most relevant. And first of all, some people forecasted what is called AI winter. So basically after a peak and spike of interest and funding into some technology, there is usually a drop when people are getting disappointed in technology. And it does not seems to be happening in 2025, which means machines will keep working and growing, companies will keep investing, and people will keep using. But when people think about the growth of the AI, they usually imagine like a dystopian image of rise of the machine that will take over our jobs. And in reality, it will look different. So in many positions, in many jobs that you and me occupy, there are some pieces of work that can be done more efficiently, faster, better, maybe even with AI tools. And it's not bad, right? Because our labor gets easier. But watch the hands. Why hire intern if AI can do this job already? Or if you have 10 project managers and 10% of their time is now saved with AI tools, next time some of them will quit. Why even hire? So my forecast is some of the companies will silently slow down the hiring in the areas where experts and managers are using AI tools and models more often. And for roles like software engineering, these trends will be even more intense. Some companies will approach it in a very organized way. So they will be actively looking what can we automate with AI. So this year we can expect a wave of consultants with fancy presentations to your vice presidents with top 10 areas where you can optimize with AI. Finally, there are what is called AI agents that are being developed literally as we speak. It's basically when companies are taking existing AI tools and custom them to a specific business task. And this market is wicked, and the competition here will become even more intense. And for all of us, it means a simple thing. A good job will be even harder to find. Number two, companies now expect AI in your CV. Another big practical implication of AI is how massively companies started to actually use it. ChatGPTs, copilots, many more. And the usage is getting normalized. For us, it means next time you will find yourself on the interview, there is a high chance that person who interviews you will expect to hear from you something about usage of AI, because it kind of becomes a new norm. The demand on experience with AI will only increase. And even if your job has nothing to do with tech at all, it doesn't matter, because it still applies to you, because companies start to expect from many employees kind of like AI literacy. Why? Because the processes around you, it doesn't matter in which part of the organization you are, the processes around you will become more and more AI heavy, and you will be expected to know and being able to navigate these processes. And that requires an understanding of what AI is and how it works. And for technical roles, let me say, if you're a developer or engineer and you have no mentioning of AI in your CV whatsoever, fix it. Just fix it. Trend number 3 is anxiety. My deep belief is that we're entering epidemic of anxiety. It's not a precise use of the medical term, but I don't even know how else to put it. And there are so many things that lead us there. But what's interesting is millennials and Gen Z will experience anxiety because of the different reasons. Let's start with millennials. Many of them experience financial struggles. Everyone talks about it, how much debt everyone has, and many of them were kind of pushed to take a lot of loans. The cost of living is increasing, and if this combination is not making you anxious, I don't know, you have nerves of steel apparently. Also, millennials tend to postpone big life decisions Even if they maybe could have bought a house, they tend sometimes not to, because all of this creates a feeling of financial instability. The second source of anxiety is social media pressure. And we look at social media, we compare our lives to lives of other people, we don't feel like we're enough, and it lowers our self-esteem. Also, we're trying to meet the social standards that we observe, and it leads to millennials spending recklessly sometimes. Finally, a lot of millennials are burned out. In some companies, there are objectively less career opportunities. The stress level that they experience daily can be very high, and it leads not only to a burnout, but also to a loss of a feeling of professional confidence. And it actually affects them. So if you have a poor mental health, you actually work worse. Like, you don't show your best work, you take more sick days, etc. Now to Gen Z. And of course, they don't have a financial stability either, but there is a difference. Many of them observed millennials who has such a crazy amounts of debt that they just refuse to participate in it. They want financial stability, but they refuse to take loans, or at least to an extent that the observed millennials did. Some of them don't plan long-term financially at all, and they can spend a lot on everyday entertainment. But one of the difference from millennials, for example, is that many Gen Z avoid public excessive consumption that many millennials did. Another source of anxiety is work conditions. There can be a high workload, not very healthy team cultures, and poor work-life balance. I also came across a very interesting opinion that because of the hybrid work, a traditional mentorship weakened because there is no in-person connection, and like the institute of mentorship became weaker, and people literally feel more lonely in hybrid, especially if they started their career in this mode. They're less motivated, detached from corporate culture, don't feel satisfaction from work, and generally don't sense where they fit in as individuals. Unfortunately, I don't see anything that would significantly change the situation in 2025. My bet is that people will take more sick leave days due to mental health reasons. By the way, I don't see any problem with that. And I think that companies who care about their employees, and this is kind of like their core value, they will invest more in mental health areas and how they support their employees. And there will always be companies who will sell, who will be vocal about it, but in reality won't do anything. Trend number 5. On top of existing multicultural teams, we will get more and more multi-generational teams. This is not a new trend, and it is rather slow, but it will get bigger. The thing is, in many countries, people live longer and they retire later. And also in many places, there is an economical pressure to retire later, which basically means that older employees are staying in their companies and working longer. At the same time, Gen Z are full on with their careers, which leads us to have 4 or 5 generations potentially at the same workplace at the same time. Now, what does it mean for us? Well, we will need to learn how to navigate different communication styles and preferences, working styles in general, and different values. Because, hello, what people value at different stages of their lives is different, and this is okay. My bet is there will be a new category of employees with a very specific soft skill set that would work as bridges between people of different generations. And because of this, because of how they're able to translate ideas from one language to another in a way, it will make multi-generational teams much more harmonious, and a lot of companies will desperately need that. Another implication is reverse mentoring. And actually it's kind of fun when you think about it. So it's basically when younger people are mentoring older people about technology or about the cultural norms, and traditional mentoring will coexist with reverse mentoring. So both sides will be able to learn something from each other, which, if you ask me, like, I absolutely love this idea. I think this is pretty awesome. Trend number 5, diversity, equity, and inclusion in corporate will change. So many companies announced recently that they plan to change their diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives, sometimes including, closing the outdated ones, which no one knows what that means. The wording that all of them use is incredibly careful and almost political. So you read and you feel that they're trying to kind of, like serve everyone, appear goods for everyone. They kind of sort of still want to create an inclusive workplace, but formulations switched from we do this because it's right to, okay, we do this because it's good for the business. And I won't lie, I'm like the biggest diversity advocate. And even for me, some of the inclusivity initiatives didn't fully make sense. But when I see all these companies making statement after statement, I don't know, this may or may not be connected with some political changes and elections in some countries in the world, but maybe it's a speculation. But what I'm personally interested in seeing which companies are actually having inclusivity and diversity in their core and which actually don't. And the time will show. Now, what does it mean for us? And I think for people who represent minorities, many of them may actually decide not to support these companies anymore if people don't feel that these companies are honest and authentic. And people who work in these companies may actually lose engagement, because when you feel that you work for a company that's, like they change their stance from one day to another, it doesn't feel genuine and you kind of lose your motivation a little bit. And I really want to hope that career opportunities for underrepresented groups won't decline. But objectively, looking at the trends that are happening right now with big companies, I sense that there is a chance this may happen. Trend number 6, from UGC, user-generated content, to EGC, employee-generated content. Many B2C companies realize that without a prominent, not only face of the company, but rather stance or position on big questions that matter to their customers, they won't go too far. Many companies are trying to stay nice and political and serve everyone and appeal to everyone, but I don't think it actually works anymore, because people expect more and more B2C companies to take a stance on things that matter to them. Like a Pride Month, for example. A modern common sense is that you as a company only allowed to put a rainbow logo if you actually contribute to this community all throughout the year. Otherwise, no one believes you. So you only use some occasion for your business if you already contribute. So to achieve that, companies want to be more present and want to appear more authentic. And if before we had the rise of user-generated content, so I am sent a product, I review a product, I film it, I put it on the internet. In 2025, we will see much more employee-generated content. Now, what does it mean for you? Well, if you can sit and talk in front of the camera and not being too cringe, or maybe being very cringe on purpose, there is a chance that companies and your company even can be interested in that, aside from your main role. Because I don't think a lot of people actually can do that, to talk on behalf of the company you work for and still appear authentic. So if you can do that, good for you. Trend number 7, increased support for managers. So a few things changed actually in the field of corporate leadership. Before, people were tolerating mediocre management and mediocre leadership as a part of corporate life. Now we're post-pandemic, increased awareness of mental health, well-being, and people push back and people start to expect more from their leaders. Also, the leadership programs inside of companies were traditionally focused on how to set goals, how to delegate, how to do performance reviews. But now leaders need to deal with so much more actually, with hybrid work, AI everywhere, and even again managing a multi-generational workforce. So the skill set that they expected to have in many companies is not even included in programs to support managers. Finally, before, the mindset for the managers, they were kind of expected to manage the team and deliver the results. But now companies look at leaders as drivers of culture, of innovation and inclusion even. So because of that, the bar of what is expected from managers, first, it increases and then it shifts. So in 2025, we will see many companies introducing new support mechanisms for their managers, including coaching and peer support. Coincidentally, I also sometimes mentor managers, and I even have a discount for women who build their career in tech. If you want to become a manager, or if you're already an experienced leader that is facing a challenge, go to the link down below, think, take a look, and decide for yourself if this is the type of help that you may need. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.